Hey guys, it's me, the dude who talks, and welcome. So for this episode, I've got a couple of reviews for you, a little bit of a dive into a record label, but let's start off like we normally do with a new song that I've been liking at the moment. So we've got a new song, So the new song I'm liking at the moment is a new song from Pist called Their Voice Is Not Mine, which is taken from their upcoming album The Bleak Unrest. And Their Voice Is Not Mine features James McBain, also known as Hellripper, on this track. So as you probably have gathered, Pist have been going into a new direction for a while now, moving away from like stoner metal to a much more like blackened metal thrash band. And this song sees them cement themselves in that territory for sure, and I'm all for it. Plus James McBain on this track as well, and you've got yourself a beast of a song. I'll be including like a link to this song should you wish to check it out on my description section. So, instead of thoughts and stuff, I thought I'd try something a bit new. And I wanted to do like a section where I would do a little bit of a dive into like record labels, like the more eclectic the better. So a while back when I reviewed Unfurling Redemption by Daniel McLennan, the dude from the record label reached out to me and was kind enough to give me a couple of download codes for a couple of albums on the record label, which is called Cruel Nature Records. So I thought I'd start off with, that record label. So I'm going to pick a few artists on Cruel Nature Records and talk about them. But anyway, just a little bit of background about Cruel Nature Records. They're a DIY based label who put out mainly cassettes, and they started in 2013 and they're based in Northumberland. Right off the bat, I decided to check out Capsule Bode Space by Neutraliser, which is like an hour and 19-minute long song of like drone and psychedelic music, really spacey vibes. They've got an example of the song that you can listen to on their Bandcamp page. It's a shame that I missed out on the cassette release because I would have loved to have picked it up. I'll be including like links to these artists on my description section should you wish to check them out. Okay, so the next one is Cowman. Now I kindly got the album Hydra as a free download, and from what I can tell it is just one dude, and I'm just going to read what's on their Last.fm page because I think that describes it best. One man band, digital grind puke. Best described as sounding like an angry robot gorilla being crushed through a mangle. One man, one bass guitar, one drum machine, backing track, a bunch of distortion pedals. Cowman makes music that sounds like Nirvana around incesticide and looks like the offspring of those two guys from Lightning Bolt. I think that's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it's definitely on the low side of things. Reminded me of like a deranged No Age, but with a more leaning to grunge. Here is a little bit of a clip of their song Cape Coast Castle. Okay, so the last one I'm gonna pick on this record label is purely on the artwork alone. So we have Poundland and the album Defeated, which I'll be honest sounds very nightmarish when I was listening to it, but it was really intriguing. It sounded like lo-fi industrial doom with a little bit of punk thrown in there. But I will play a little bit of their song The Game Remains the Same on the album Defeated.
Apex predator.
So the first of my reviews today is the second album from the Italian stoner rock band Cancervo, which is simply called Number 2 and is out now through Electric Valley Records. So Cancervo are a three-piece band from San Giovanni Bianco, Bergamo. They got their name from the mountain Cancervo, and which was like the heart of their first album, which was called One, and they became obsessed with like the traditions and folklore associated with that album. So while One was instrumental, Two has vocals in it from the bassist Luca, and joining him are Francesco on guitars and Sam on drums. So without further ado, let's just dive into this album. From the opening track Herrera and from the first note played, and what I'm about to say next should be my catchphrase because I say it all the fucking time. You know what you're getting with these guys, and it is that kind of doom stoner variety. Though I will say there's a bit of a definite change in their style as they more firmly stick to the doom rather than like the psychedelic and prog moments of the first album. Let's talk about the vocals a little bit. They're kind of along the side of the deep sounding style, so picture some vocalists like Peter Steele from Typo Negative, David Gold from Woods of Ypres, and Cathedral Lee Dorian, like more like from the Forest of Equilibrium era. There's more of a Electric Wizard influence on the following song, Herdsmen of Graham, with that kind of fuzzed out riff used in the song. Very, very slow pace, but it does make the effort to move your head slowly along to nod along to it. A standout for me is on the album is the next song, The Cult of Armentaga. I feel like this song is really atmospheric and really captures most of what they're trying to achieve with this record, with the sound, and this riff really does stick in my head. I'll just play you a little bit of a clip from it. Devil's Coffin feels like a bit like a revisit to their earlier material, with it being completely instrumental and has a little slide back to the heavy psych vibes of the first album. And for me, it's a really strong song on the album because the instrumentals really stand out and there's a lot more focusing on the riffs used. Oh boy, I do have a couple of nitpicks for this album, and it's always best to just rip the band-aid off. As interesting they were trying to come across with the vocals, I just felt that they were just a little bit too flat for me. Maybe it was just from like the guy doing the vocals just was thrown up on it and was just like a little bit of a warm-up for him, but I felt as deep as they were, they just weren't interesting enough, and I think they just needed a bit more gravitas in the delivery of the vocals. I'm not saying they were awful, they're just not that interesting. And I also felt that a couple of the songs were just a bit too slow paced for me, like for example Herdsmen of Graham and Sable's Go. I just felt that this didn't go anywhere that special. I get that it's a blueprint of doom, it's slow paced, like slow heavy metal music playing, I get that. But I feel like these songs lack the thing that hooks you in with doom. Overall, yeah, with my comments and nitpicks, I do see a lot of potential with these guys, and there is some excellence that really shines through on this album. And I feel like it was an album that was a transition from changing styles and more of a warm-up for them. And hopefully the next release will see them where they want to be. So our second album for review is from Remote Viewing with Modern Addictions, which is coming out on the 3rd of February through Human Worth Records. It's just a side note here, it's worth noting that 10% of the proceeds from this album will be donated to the food bank charity, the Trussell Trust. So remote viewing, not remute. Remote Viewing were formed in 2016, featuring members from established bands such as Pale Horse, Million Dead, Rest in Peace, and Sly and the Family Drone, and are essentially a noisy sludge band from London. Modern Addictions was recorded in April 2022 by Wayne Adams at Bear Bites Horse Studio and was mastered by Stephen Kerrison. The band Remote Viewing features John Atkins on bass, James Bryant on guitar, Tom Fowler on guitar as well, Greg Alum on drums, and last but not least, Ed Dudley on vocals. So as we always do, and all that shit's out of the way, let's just get into it. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's fucking go. So, we got Short Distance Runner as the opening track, which starts off with that low and dirty bass line, which, you know, I'm always a fan of, and then the feedback kicks in, and we got the riff opening up the song. Very sludge orientated, but I definitely feel like it gravitates to drone as well, with that relentless noise throughout. Just gives you that vibe that your skull is about to be slowly crushed to death. The song is very slow paced, however, but towards the end of the song it really lets rip and it gets really intense and heavy. Well, yes, I've mentioned that the band is firmly footed in sludge. The following song, Wasted on Purpose, is more like, has a bit more post-hardcore vibes to it. Don't get me wrong, the sludginess is still there, but the melodies made me think I was listening to something by 100 Reasons or Hell is for Heroes. And then it flicks back to a segment in the song where it feels like they've condensed a whole song by Son O parentheses in about 30 seconds. The album as a whole, Modern Addictions, definitely has a searing intensity to it, with the way that the album just overwhelms you with distortion and feedback and power chords thrown in, and you've also got the snarling harsh vocals with Ed Dudley. Though I will say the album as a whole is a slow burner, apart from a couple of moments where the tempo changes up a little bit, and then the last song called ABBA/ABBA, they take a much more slightly softer approach with more like yearnings into post-rock territory, but that's only for a brief moment in that song. Also on the topic of vocals, they've got guest vocalist Amy Shanter from Human Leather on the lead single of the album, which is called Your Opinion Is Wrong, which adds the heaviness with a mixture of screams and growls. I always like it when they fully utilise a guest vocalist and not just stick them to the background, and I'm glad this wasn't the case. The song as a whole is definitely a strong point to the whole album and has a bit of a Primitive Man feel to it. Right, there was nothing outright that I could nitpick about this album, but if you were looking for something with a bit more riffs and then sad riffs taking centre stage on the album, I think this won't appeal to it. It's more like drone based than anything. So yeah. Overall, I'm at the stage now where albums do take a few more listens for me to really get it. This was definitely one of them, but it was something I was really glad I stuck with. It won't fill you with joy, but you will have an experience of being crushed with this intense slow burn of a remarkably heavy album. Okay, so that is it from me. Have you checked out any of the artists I've been talking about on this video? Please give me your opinions down below in the comments section. I always love to hear from you. Like always, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It really helps me out. Just want to quickly plug my socials as well. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'll be including links to them should you wish to give me a like and a follow. Also, I'm on Buy Me a Coffee, so if you want to donate some money and you're feeling generous and donate some chump change for the chump here, please do so. I'm not asking for much, just asking for a little. And that is it from me. I've been the dude who talks. You guys, as always, are fucking awesome, and I'll see you soon.